everyone, it is time for another round of box office predictions before I bolt right out that door and head on over to Austin for South by Southwest. I'm so excited, but I'm also kind of excited to do a little Fantasy Movie League recapping for you right now because last weekend was the very first weekend in a brand new season, so very important to kick things off on the right note. And we had a bunch of players in the Predictions with Perri League who kicked off the season with the perfect lineup. And those players are Lola's, D-Duck for Life, BBGG, JT Was Here, Furiosa, Saints Were Robbed, and Ace Money, 1138's Cineplex. Congratulations, guys. You're leading the pack here. I'm not far behind, though, because I had a pretty strong weekend one as well. I wound up coming in 13th place. Feeling pretty good about that. A little mixed on my rankings and my numbers from last weekend, though. I wound up going 3 for 5. Of course, we had How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World topping the charts again with $30 million. Next up was Tyler Perry's A Medea Family Funeral, but with a good deal more than I had anticipated. It made $27.1 million its opening weekend. Alita took the 3 spot with $7.2 million. Then it was the Lego Movie 2, the second part, which had a very strong hold, not exactly what I was predicting. It made another $6.6 million. And then finally, Fighting With My Family just edged out Green Book for the number 5 position, making another $4.7 million. As for Greta, looking at ticket sales throughout the weekend, I thought it had a shot, but it wound up wrapping up weekend one of its run with just $4.5 million, which was only good enough for 8th place at the box office. Rolling into this week's lineup now, I'm actually switching things up a little bit with my 5th position because I don't have the Lego Movie 2 there. I actually have Alita, and I know Alita made a little more than the Lego Movie Part 2 did last weekend, but the thing is, with Captain Marvel hitting theaters, I think Alita is going to see the much bigger dip, and that kind of makes me want to take last weekend's 41.5% drop for Alita, bring it up to something like 45%, and if that's what winds up happening, it's making another $4 million this weekend. As for the Lego Movie 2, the second part, of course, that is my number 4 pick. Last weekend's drop was super minimal. It only lost 31.8%, and I do see it taking a teeny tiny hit again this weekend. Maybe not that low, but I don't want to bring that number up any higher than 35%, and if that's what it winds up losing, it will top Alita with $4.3 million of its own. Moving on over to my 3 spot now, that is where I have Tyler Perry's A Medea Family Funeral, and I've actually got a good deal of faith in this one this weekend. One, because clearly it exceeded expectations. It's opening weekend in theaters. On top of that, it's got an A- cinema score. And then, if I want to look at the Medea franchise, figure out a movie with a similar opening weekend total to help me figure out this movie's weekend 2% change, that brings me right back to the movie Boo. The first one, it dropped a mere 40% in weekend 2. The thing is, though, that one had a lot less competition than what Family Funeral is facing. We are basically saying Inferno versus Captain Marvel. So clearly there's a very wide gap there, which is why I want to take that 40% drop, bring it up to 50, and that would still leave Family Funeral with another $14 million this weekend. And now it's on to the number 2 spot, and that is where I have How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Looking back at the first 2 movies in this franchise, weekend 3, they both saw their percent changes dip a little bit, and I think the same might happen for Hidden World. And yeah, one might think the release of Captain Marvel could impact Hidden World's profits this weekend quite a bit, but I actually think it's going to wind up being pretty good counter-programming. And also, if I look back at the second movie in the How to Train Your Dragon series, it was going up against the release of Transformers: Age of Extinction at this point in its run, and it still saw its percent change drop, which is why I want to take How to Train Your Dragon's 45% dip from last weekend, bring it down to 40% this weekend, and that means it's making another $18 million this time around. And now it is on to the number 1 spot, and of course, that position is going to Captain Marvel this weekend, and with this one, the big question is, where is it going to fall as far as MCU opening weekend rankings go? And the last I checked, the projections were coming in at just over 125 million, with some suggesting it could go north of 145 million. And I think the higher end of that range is very reasonable for a number of reasons. Of course, we do know it is the first female-led MCU movie. That's a big deal. Keeping track of the ticket sales the last few weeks, things have been looking really good, and Fandango is also reporting that it has more advanced ticket sales than any film since Infinity War. On top of that, it has clearly been a pretty slow year thus far, and I really do think that there's just been a lot of momentum building for the first big juggernaut release of the year, and I've been reading reports that saying it's currently outpacing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That movie, of course, opened last year and took $148 million its opening weekend, so I am predicting that Captain Marvel is going to top that. It's going to make $155 million, and that would mean it's posting the 7th largest opening weekend total for the MCU. Now it is recap time. Of course, my #1 spot went to Captain Marvel with $155 million. Then it was How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World coming in at #2 with $18 million. Tyler Perry's A Medea Family Funeral taking the 3 spot with $14 million. Followed by The Lego Movie 2 with $4.3 million at #4. And then finally, Alita Battle Angel coming in right behind that at #5 with $4 million even. All right, guys, now I leave it to you while I'm on my way to Austin. Why don't you hit that comment section below, put your top 5 rankings right there, and also your number picks for the weekend. And as always, I do have to remind you, head on over to Fantasy Movie League, because this weekend is going to be an interesting weekend of play, because Captain Marvel doesn't get just one item to choose from. You have 3. It's divided between its Friday earnings, Saturday, and Sunday earnings. So a little bit of an added challenge for you guys right there. I'm curious to see how everybody does. Before I say goodbye, we've got a round of Patreon shoutouts to give, and all 6 of these names are on my shoutout tier. They are Dylan, Jimmy, Craig, Cedric, Paul, and Andrew. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated. We appreciate it so much. You guys rock, and so does anybody out there watching this video. Do not forget to like and share it, and then check back in next weekend to see how we all did on our box office predictions.